Hello students. In the previous class we discussed different stresses and strains and the properties of materials along with these types of loads. Now in this class we look at the stress strain diagram for mild steel. The stress strain relationship between any material is obtained by conducting tensile test in the laboratory on a standard specimen. Standard specimens means here we first diagram shows this is the standard specimen, mild steel specimen. L2 is the length, grip to grip length. That means from up to this place the area is fixed into the grippers, and this place is also fixed into the grippers of the tensile testing machine. This L1 is called the extensiometer gauge length. That means this point to this point we indicate as the gauge length. Between these 2 points, that is the gauge length is observed by applying the load on this specimen. In universal testing machine in the laboratory, that is tensile testing machine, we applied the load on this testing specimen. By applying the load on this testing specimen, what is the behavior of this testing specimen? That means how the stresses are induced in this specimen, and also what is the strain produced in this specimen. That is stress strain diagram represents. This stress strain diagram represents the behavior of specimen under the tensile load. The second diagram shows that a mild steel specimen after breaking. After breaking, wherever the weakest section in the specimen, there itself a cup-shaped neck diameter will be formed, necking formed. At that necking, the specimen fails into 2 pieces. One part of the specimen is called the male part, and another part is female part. The male part consisting at the breaking area in the form of core, and the female part consisting in the form in the place of breaking area, cup shaped will be formed. Clear? So this stress strain behavior of this mild steel can be drawn. The stress strain diagram can be drawn on the tensile testing machine, which shows like this: from O, A, B, C, D and F. Sorry, E. This is the variation of stress and strains by applying the tensile load on the this testing specimen. In these points, O is the origin. Before applying the tensile force or tensile load on the specimen, by applying the tensile load, that means by increasing the tensile load on the specimen, the stresses increases within the specimen. Along with the stress, the strain is also increases proportionally up to point A. That means the stress is proportional to strain up to this point A. This point A is called limit of proportionality. Beyond the point A, the stress is not proportional to the strain. Just beyond the point A, another point will be developed. That point is called the elastic limit. Elastic limit means in this slide we show that limit of proportionality at point A, it is the limiting value. It is the limiting value of the stress to the up to which the stress is proportional to strain. Then next, beyond the limit of proportionality, there is another point will be developed in the diagram, that is the elastic limit. Elastic limit is the point where the material behaves like an elastic material. Up to elastic limit, the material behaves like a elastic material. This is the limiting value of the stress up to which, if the material is stressed and then released, strain disappears completely and the original length is regained. This point is slightly beyond the limit of proportionality. This is diagram. In this diagram, point B is called the upper yield point. Upper yield point means by maintaining the load constant, the strain continuously increases due to the material flow. This nature of material ends at point C. During this process, the strain decreases from B to C. This C point is called lower yield point. Lower yield point at which the stress remains constant but strain increases due to the material flow. Beyond the C, by applying the load on the specimen, the material which is up to point D, the stress enormously increases along with the strain. At this point D, the stress is called ultimate stress or maximum stress. At point F, let us take the point F at which the load is removing on this material. The member does not regain its original shape up to 0. It retain up to point F dash. That means this O to F dash is called permanent deformation. That means the material beyond the point A or beyond the elastic limit, the material is act as a plastic material. Okay, it shows that the plasticity, that means plastic material beyond the point elastic limit. Up to point D, the stress increases by applying the load on the specimen. Beyond the point D, if we apply the load on the material or the specimen, the stress continuously decreases and neck formation takes place at point D. Neck formation means decrease in diameter wherever the weakest section in the specimen. After neck formation, the stress decreases within the material of the specimen. At certain point, by applying the load beyond the point D, at point E, the material fails or break like this. Two pieces. That one piece is called the male piece and the piece is the female piece. Female piece having the cup shape and the male piece having the cone shape will be formed. This point is called the breaking point or failure point of the material or milestone. In brief, O is called the origin, A is called the limit of proportionality. Beyond the point A, there is another point which is not shown in the diagram. Somewhere between the A and B, that point is called the elastic limit. Up to that limit, the material is act as elastic material. Beyond that elastic limit, the material is act as a plastic material. The point B is called the upper yield point. Point C is called the lower yield point. Yielding means the material flow. The point D is called the ultimate point or maximum stress occurs at this point, and the point E is called the breaking point or failure point. These are the represented in the following slide. This is the limit of proportionality, elastic limit. Elastic limit, already I told that this limiting This is the limiting value of stress up to which if the material is stressed, then released, strain disappears completely and original length is retained. This point is slightly beyond the limit of proportionality. Next, upper yield point B. This is the stress at which the load starts reducing and the extension increases. The phenomena is called the yielding material. At this stage, the strain about 0.125% and the stress within the mild steel specimen is about 250 megapascals. The lower yield point, at this stage, the stress remains same, but the strain increases for some time due to material flow. The ultimate stress at point D, this is the maximum stress of the material can resist. The stress is about 370 to 400 megapascals. At this stage, the cross-sectional area at a particular section starts reducing very fast. This is called a neck formation. After this stage, load resisted and hence the stress developed starts reducing. The last point in that diagram, breaking point or breaking failure point. E. The stress at which finally the specimen fails is called breaking point. At this point, the strain is about 20 to 25%. This slide shows the stress-strain diagram for brittle material. Previously, we studied about stress-strain diagram for mild steel, that is the ductile material, which is very soft. Brittle material having higher strength and high brittlity. For brittle material, the stress-strain diagram shows like a curve. It's the stress-strain diagram does not contains any yield point for brittle material. With a little strain, that is with little deformation, this brittle material fails or break. This breaking point is this. At this point, the brittle material member will fails with a little deformation. The typical stress-strain relationship in a brittle material like cast iron. Cast iron is the best example for brittle material. In the above figure, which shows in these material there is no appreciable change in rate of strain. The strain is not that much changes by applying the load on the brittle material. There is no yield point and no necking takes place. Directly, the brittle material fails by applying the load at certain point. Ultimate point and breaking point are the same. This is the ultimate or breaking point, which both are same for the brittle material. The strain at failure is very, very small. In brittle material, the strains are very small before fracture. Clear, students? Let us go to the next slide. Next slide is represents the Hooke's law. In this slide, we shows that the Hooke's law. What is Hooke's law? Hooke's law means it's already explained in the mild steel diagram, stress-strain diagram for mild steel. It is the states. It states that for a material subjected to tensile or compressive load, when within an elastic limit, the stress in that material is directly proportional to the strain. Here, by applying the load on any member, let us take this diagram. By applying the tensile force on that member, the linear stress produced within this member is directly proportional to the linear strain within the elastic limit. Mathematically, it shows that sigma is proportional to epsilon. Sigma is the linear stress and epsilon is the linear strain. The proportionality constant sigma is equal to E into epsilon. E is the Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity, which is the proportionality constant. Therefore, from the above diagram, we can write as the Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity is the ratio of linear stress to the linear strain, sigma by epsilon. Clear? This is the Hooke's law. Hooke's law states that, which says that the linear strain is directly proportional to the linear strain within the elastic limit. Based on the Hooke's law, we can derive the equation for the elongation or decrease in length of a member by applying the tensile or compressive load. This is the extension or shortening of a bar. Bar means it is a member or a rod, a solid member. First diagram. In the first diagram, we are applying the tensile load on this member. Tensile load means it is the pulling load which is outward direction on the member. By applying the tensile load, it can extend from initial length L to delta L. Delta L is the extension or enlargement or elongation. As we know that stress means sigma equal to load by area. Mathematically, the load P applied on the member, tensile load, and area is the cross-sectional area which is perpendicular to the applied load. Strain is nothing but change in length by original length. Here change in length is delta or delta L. Delta L is the change in length by original length is the capital L. From these two definitions, stress and strain, from the Hooke's law, E can be write as, that is the Young's modulus can be write as sigma by epsilon, that is stress by strain. Stress nothing but P by A and strain nothing but delta L by L. Therefore, E equal to P by A divided by delta L by L. By rearranging the parameter in that equation, E can be write as PL by delta L into A. Delta L means here change in length. Either it is decreasing length or increasing length. This delta L can be calculated from this equation. Delta L is equal to PL by AE. This becomes, this is the equation to calculate the elongation or shortening of a bar. Bar nothing but, just now I told that bar nothing but it is a member or solid member on which the load is applying. It is also called rod or bar, whatever it is represented as bar. This formula, whatever the derived in the previous section, delta L equal to PL by AE is the formula in which the P is the applied load, L is the initial length of a member, A is the cross-sectional area, E is the Young's modulus for that material, which is the property of material. Young's modulus is the property of material. Delta L is the extension or shortening of a bar, or increasing length or decreasing length of a bar. If the member increases its length, it is taken as positive. If the member decreases its length by applying the compressive load, it is taken as negative. Clear? This equation delta L is equal to PL by AE. PL by AE can be used or applicable. That means it is having some limitations. This equation can be applied only when the load must be axial. If we apply the load perpendicular to the axis, this equation cannot be used for the type of loads. So load must be axial means the load must be acting on a member along the axis. Second limitation is the member must have uniform cross section. The member means the bar or member, the material having the uniform cross section throughout its length. Then only this equation can be applicable. Third limitation is the stress is within elastic limit. That means the load applied on a member must be within the elastic limit. Beyond the elastic limit, the material is act as a plastic material. So within the elastic limit, this PL by AE is equation can be applicable. These three are the limitations for this equation, delta L equal to PL by AE. Some of the definitions which are used in the mechanics of solids are factor of safety. When we design a member that must be safe in condition, that's why the member must be below the ultimate stress. The member is designed for the working stress which must be below the ultimate stress. That factor of safety represents the member which is safe, either it is safe condition or not. Therefore, factor of safety is defined as the ratio of ultimate stress to the working stress. This is the factor of safety, ultimate stress by working stress. In this, ultimate means maximum stress that will be induced in the material, that can be induced in the material. That means up to that stress the material can withstand. In the denominator, working stress is there. Working stress means that the member of that material is designed up to that stress. So this working stress always less than the ultimate stress. That's why the factor of safety is always more than 1. Some of the examples I have given at this place. For steel, the factor of safety is 1.85. That means the ultimate stress is equal to 1.5 times the working stress. For concrete, it is taken as 3. Ultimate stress, that is the maximum stress that can be withstood by the material, is 3 times the working stress. That is, working stress means the design stress. The design stress must be less than 1/3 of the ultimate stress for the concrete. Then for the timber, it is 4 to 6. The factor of safety for the timber is 4 to 6 to be maintained without failing of timber. Next, another definition, working stress. Working stress, in this working stress we discussed, a working stress means it is the stress to which any member is designed is much less than the ultimate stress is called the working stress. This stress is the safe stress at which the member is designed for different applications. Next definition is the Poisson's ratio. What is meant by a Poisson's ratio? Poisson's ratio, different materials having the different Poisson's ratios. It is the constant ratio for the particular material. It is the ratio of lateral strain to the linear strain. Lateral in the means, in the previous class we discussed the lateral strain. Lateral means the direction which is perpendicular to the load direction is called the lateral direction. When we apply the load on a member, the member is changes in the lateral direction, and also the member changes in the linear direction. So it is the how much lateral strain will be produced by applying the load and how much linear strain is producing by applying the loading on that member. Ratio between these two is called the Poisson's ratio, which is the constant for particular material. This is also lateral strain and linear strain must be within the elastic limit. It is a constant ratio for particular material. It is denoted by generally 1/m. In some other books, it is denoted by a mu. It is denoted by mu in the some books. So for most of the materials or metals, its value is between 0.25 to 0.33. That means the the lateral strain is 0.25 times the linear strain to the 0.33 times the linear strain. Its value for steel is 0.3. That means the lateral strain is very high for the steel. For concrete is 0.15. That means the lateral strain when compared to the steel, it is somewhat less than the steel. Next, volumetric strain. This slide shows the volumetric strain. Already we discussed the volumetric strain in the types of strains. Volumetric strain is the ratio of change in volume to the original volume is called the volumetric strain. Here the equation shows that EV or epsilon V. Strain is represented by epsilon or E, small e. These two letters indicate the strain, linear strain. Here we, in this equation, EV means it is the strain, volumetric strain. The suffix V represents the volume, E represents the linear strain or strain. The strain EV represents the volumetric strain is the ratio of change in volume, that is the delta V is the change in volume, or delta V like this we can represent as change in volume. Otherwise, some other books it can be represented as dV like this. dV is the change in volume. V is the initial volume of a member before applying the load on it. It can be shown that the volumetric strain is sum of the strains in three mutually perpendicular directions. That means one member is if one member is considered in x, y, z directions, the strain in x direction, summation of strain in x direction, strain in y direction, and strain in z direction is equal to the volumetric strain produced in that material. For example, consider a bar of length capital L, breadth B, and depth D. This is the L is the length, breadth B, depth is the D. By applying the load on this material like this, we are applying the load on this material like this. It is called the tensile load on the material along the length side. If we apply the load on this side, on this direction, the length is increases, and the breadth and depth are decreases. For this direction, length direction, that is axial direction, B and D are the lateral directions for applied load direction. B and D are called the lateral directions. If we apply the load in the lengthwise, the B and D dimensions are decreases. Let us take the volume of this body, this member is L into B into D, length into breadth into depth. Since volume is a function of length, breadth and diameter, let us differentiate this equation on both sides. That means delta V, change in volume, we can write it as dV, differentiation of volume. dV can be write as differentiation of L, that is the delta L, remaining two parameters kept constant, B into D, plus L and D remains constant in the second parameter, and delta B is the differentiation of breadth. And in third parameter, LB is the constant and differentiation of D is the delta D. This is the UV model. UV model means U dash V plus V dash U, like that. The differentiation of L, B, D, we can differentiate that equation, then we can get delta V is equal to BD into delta V, delta L, LD into delta B, and LB into delta D. From this equation, delta V by V can be write as, that is divided the equation on both sides by volume. Delta V is equal to, that is delta V by LBD. Volume means LBD. If we divide the volume on both sides, left hand side, we can get the delta V by V. Delta V by V is called the volumetric strain. It is called the volumetric strain. We can represent as EV, that is the volumetric strain on left hand side. On right hand side, first parameter becomes delta L by L, BD is cancelled. Second parameter LD is the cancel, delta B by B remains same. And the third parameter delta D by D, LB parameters will be cancelled. Therefore, the final equation EV, that is a volumetric strain, becomes delta L by L plus delta B by B plus delta D by D. That means delta L by L is called the change in length by original length, is called the strain in the x direction. Similarly, change in strain in y direction, delta B by B, and change in z direction, delta D by D, it is the strain in z direction. Finally, we conclude from this equation is that the volumetric strain is the summation of strains in different directions. Let us consider another example for this. Another example. Now consider a circular rod of length L and diameter D. Circular rod of length L and diameter D. Volume of this bar, that is the circular rod, V equal to area into length, that is the cross-sectional area into length. Cross-sectional area is pi by 4 d square. It is represented, and pi r square. It can also represented in radius of the bar, pi r square. Otherwise, in terms of d, the area, cross-sectional area is pi by 4 d square. Pi by 4 d square is the cross-sectional area into length of the member, is becomes volume of that member. Clear? If we differentiate this equation on both sides, delta V is the differentiation of the volume, delta V. Delta V equal to, if we differentiate on right hand side, pi by 4 is the constant value. If we differentiate d square, 2d into delta d, and L remains constant here. Plus, pi by 4 remains constant here also, and d square remains constant here, second parameter. Then differentiation of L is delta L. Clear, students? Is it understandable? It is a mathematical equation, differential equation. If we differentiate UV, then U dash V and V dash U. U dash V plus V dash U, we can write as a differentiation of UV. Your differentiation of U can be write as U dash V plus V dash U. Likewise, here I differentiate on right hand side, pi by 4 is the remains constant, d square is the U, and L is the V. If we differentiate U dash means differentiation of d square. Differentiation of d square is 2d into dd or delta d. L remains constant. That means V is the remains constant. Plus pi by 4 is the constant, and U here d square is the constant, and differentiation of L is delta L. Clear? Then by dividing the above equation by volume, that is delta V by pi by 4 d square L. Pi by 4 d square L means volume. So delta V by V on left hand side, if we divide the right hand side by the pi by 4 d square L, pi by 4 gets cancelled, and in the first parameter by d square L, one of the d is cancelled, and remaining parameter 2 delta d by d, plus if we divide this equation by pi by 4 d square L, pi by 4 d square gets cancelled, and remaining parameter here L. Therefore, delta L by L. The equation becomes delta V by V equal to 2 into delta d by d plus delta L by L. Clear? So delta V by V is the volumetric strain of this rod by applying the load on this member like this. If we apply the load on this member, its length is increases and diameter is decreases like this. The rod becomes like this. If we apply the tensile load on that member, the diameter, that is the lateral dimension, will be decreases and the linear dimension length is increases. So totally volumetric strain, how much volume is changing, how much volume changing of that member is represented by volumetric strain. Volumetric strain is equal to, from this equation, 2 into delta D by D. Delta D by D is called the strain in y direction. Here, three directions, if we consider three direction, this lengthwise direction is x, and diametral wise, this diametral wise is y, this is also diameter wise is z. That means this bar having the two diametral direction, one linear direction. So 2 into delta D by D plus delta L by L. Therefore, this can be write as EV, volumetric strain, is equal to 2 into EY or EZ plus EX. That is strain in X direction plus 2 times the strain in Y direction. Why because 2 times is in both Y and Z direction diameter itself. Therefore, it can be write as EV is equal to EX plus EY plus EZ. That means these are two equal, 2 times EY or 2 times EZ. So whatever the previous case and in this case, in general, for any shape, volumetric strain may be taken as sum of the strains in 3 mutually perpendicular direction. Whatever the member it is, that is the linear dimensions member or angular dimensions member, it is a sphere or circular rod, whatever the shape it is, the volumetric strain of any member is the summation of strain in mutually 3 direction, mutual perpendicular directions. Clear? On this, we go for worked example. Some worked example from the worked example based on the equation which are derived up to now. What are the equations derived up to now? These are the equations which are derived. This is the basic equation. Delta L is equal to PL by AE. This is the major basic equation to analyze the extension or decrease in length of a member. PL by A. Based on this equation, let us see some worked examples. First worked example is, just a minute. First example, carefully observe the example 1. A circular rod of diameter 16 mm and 500 mm long. Here, whatever the dimensions, we have to convert into mm. Generally, length units, SI units is meters. Here in MOS, mechanics of solids, we are converted every unit linear dimension into mm, millimeters. Clear? So 500 mm long, 16 mm diameter circular rod is subjected to tensile force. Tensile force means the force which tends to increase that member. The tensile force magnitude is 40 kilonewtons. The modulus of elasticity for steel may be taken as 200 kilonewtons per millimeter square. It is the E value, that is a capital E value, modulus of elasticity, which is the property of material. Then the parameter which are going to find in this problem is stress, strain and elongation of the member by applying the tensile load of 40 kilonewtons. Solution. Let us see the solution for this problem. Load. First of all, the given data which are in the problem. Load which is applying on the member is 40 kilonewtons. Kilo means it is the 10 to 10 cube. That means 40 into 1000 newtons. Then Young's modulus 200 kilonewtons per mm square. Here also we are converting the kilonewtons into newtons per mm square. That is the 200 into 10 cube newtons per mm square. L is the length of the member, which is 500 mm. 500 mm length. Diameter of the rod is given 16 mm. Then how to find the stress, strain and elongation? From the basic equation, first of all, we are going to calculate the sectional cross-sectional area. Cross-sectional area of the given member. As we know that cross-sectional area of the member, it is a circular rod. The formula is pi by 4 d square. Pi by 4 into d value is the 16 mm. Pi by 4, 16 square, it is approximately 201.06 millimeter square. Then stress small p, that is stress is represented by sigma or small p, it is the linear stress. Some books are represented in sigma, in some books the stress is represented by sigma, in some books the stress is represented by small p. Capital P is the load, small p is the stress. So therefore stress or sigma, P or sigma is equal to P by A, that is the load per unit area or load by area. Here the load is given as 40 into 1000 newtons. 40 into 1000 divided by area which we calculated, that 201.06 millimeter square. Finally we can get the stress developed in the circular rod is 198.94 newtons per mm square. This newtons per mm square is also called, represented as megapascals. Megapascals. Clear? Newtons per mm square is also represented as megapascals. Coming to the strain, how to calculate the strain? Strain is nothing but change in length by original length. Otherwise, we have another equation for the strain. From the Hooke's law, E can be written as linear stress by linear strain. Isn't it? Stress by strain is the Young's modulus. From this equation, the strain can be written as sigma divided by capital E, Young's modulus. When we substitute these two parameters in this equation, both must be in the same units, because the strain having no units, the stress must be in newtons per mm square. Young's modulus is also must be substituted in the newtons per mm square. Then only we can get the strain. So here the stress, strain is equal to stress, that is here we represented as small p, divided by Young's modulus. Small p by Young's modulus. Small p has previously we calculate the small p, that is the stress value, 198.94 newtons per mm square. Young's modulus, in the problem itself, the Young's modulus is given 200 kilonewtons per millimeter square. We converted into newtons per millimeter square, 200 into 10 cube newtons per mm square. Here we, by substituting the 200 into 10 cube, we can get the strain in the circular rod as 0.0009947. It's having no units. Strain having the no units. Then third parameter which we want to calculate, that elongation of the bar. Elongation means change in length or increase in length. Increase in length it is represented by delta or delta L. Delta or delta L. Here, delta is elongation or extension of a member, is the formula which are derived in the previous class, PL by A. PI is the load applying on the member, L is the length of the member, initial length of the member, cross-sectional area of the member is capital A, and E is the Young's modulus in that equation. By substituting all the parameters, that is P is 4 into 1000, sorry, 40 into 1000 into 500 is the length of the member. For the 500 is the length of the member, then area is the 201.06 mm square, which will be calculated, and Young's modulus is 200 into 10 cube. By substituting all the parameters into this equation, then we can get the elongation of a member as 0.497 millimeters. That means by applying the load on that member 40 kilonewtons, it will be extended up to 0.49 mm. This is the elongation of that member.